Are we live, son? Good morning. This is Two Doc Minds.
Good morning.
How y'all doing? Welcome to our live. We got a great show for you today. And we're going to really hit on a few topics. So we got a great agenda for you today, but we're going to really slow down and let you all know what we think are the opportunities, job opportunities for this new year.
Absolutely. Let's first say thank you for those of you that tuned in to our first live last week, and we appreciate you. And we are excited for our second live event.
Yeah, and as you can see, we have leveled up our live with our nice ribbon at the bottom, but more importantly, we are ready to really take we're ready to take your questions from the chat, and we're just
Good
ready.
morning. Are we giving shout outs this morning?
Yes, we're giving shout outs.
This is Stephen Sterling.
Good morning, Stephen Sterling. Welcome to the show. Thank you for
Good Saturday
tuning in.
morning. Good Saturday
Yes.
morning.
So we have an agenda for the day, and this is going to be an exciting show. We have a special guest on our show that's really going to give their background on how, their career went, some of the advantages, but also going to give you some tools and tips for you in your career. So stay tuned. We're going to be really bringing on
Yeah,
someone
that's going to be a great
that's special.
interview. I think it's going to really hone in on our topic that we're going to discuss in the morning before our interview, and really hone in on some of the things that we should highlight for 2024 in our careers.
Absolutely. So the first 20 minutes of our show, we're going to really talk about, what is it?
So we're going to talk about what workers should know about the job market in this new year.
Yeah, so we're going to really let you all know really what to expect and how to take advantage of the opportunities that's going to happen in this new year. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to really start to discuss and bring on our exclusive interviewer so that they can give a background on
and what they reflect on in their career, and maybe give some tips on what they are going to use in 2024.
Absolutely. And then we're going to take questions from you. So if you have questions for us, please drop them in the chat section. We'll get to the questions for the interview after the interview.
Yes, please utilize that chat box. We are excited to see who joins us. We had a lot of new visitors last week and got a couple of subscriptions. And so every time you subscribe, we will shout you out.
Absolutely.
And really recognize the fact that you're supporting great content like ours in our
Yep.
channel.
And make sure you hit that like button, because we want to run them likes up like last time. We really, really want to run those likes up. So make sure that you...
And please promote us. Share it with your friends, colleagues, whoever you are out there, with the organizations that you are associated with, your charity groups, whatever, church. We want people to know about our channel, and we want to continue to share good news and continue to help others have information about growing their careers.
Absolutely. So let's get in it. So we're going to talk about how you strategize for success in the job market in 2024. There is going to be a ton of opportunities. We do not want you to miss out. So we're going to share a great article that we found and we were looking at with you. And this article is broken out into 5 sections.
Yes. Did you want to go over the fine sec?
Yeah, let's break out the 5 sections, and then we're going to talk about them each and let you know where those nuggets are at and where those opportunities lie.
Yeah, so in general, we when we went through the article and what we noticed, some of the big highlights in the article, and what they discussed about 2024 was high level. It's economic stabilization, wages and raises, hiring slowdown, and layoffs, and what we call labor hoarding.
So we're going to really talk about those things in this article, and really we're going to first start off with the economic stabilization, as Dr. C mentioned. and really what that means, right? And what that means to you as someone that may be looking for a job or even maybe hiring.
So yeah, when we talk about these these categories that we highlighted in this article, we are sharing this information in order for you out there as well as ourselves to take it and inform ourselves on making decisions every step of the way this year, especially as it comes to us in our career mobility. So let's begin with economic stabilization. In the article, it discussed this topic, and it said, despite challenges like prolonged inflation, recession fears, and mass layoffs in 2023, experts anticipate a more stable labor market in 2024. So
what does that mean for you? And two, they also anticipate unemployment still hovering at the all-time low in the high threes. I think in November it was 3.7.
3.7.
And it looks to hover in that same area.
Yeah, they said the U.S. economy is expected to experience a soft landing with positive indicators such as the 3.7 that you just mentioned, unemployment rate. And this was from November.
So what does that mean for
of
you?
last year.
So for you in the job market, that means there's still going to be a boatload of jobs available in the job market. Whether it's in your neck of the woods or in other people's neck of the woods, there are opportunities for you. So if you're in a job that you don't like, if you're getting paid what you don't think you're worth, if you're going to a place that you don't like their culture, now is the time to find something. This is not the time to really just be comfortable unless you like where you're at.
Right.
This is the time to look at yourself and say, I'm going to go after opportunities, whether it's in my own organization or outside of my own organization, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities present. And this market is not always like this, Dr. C.
Yeah.
This is what we call an employee market, meaning the employees have the upper hand on their employers because there's not a lot of applicants that goes for jobs.
Supply and demand.
So come on.
Yes.
And so when it's like this, right, you have the upper hand to negotiate more money, to negotiate better hours, negotiate working at home.
And if I could say, Dr. J,
absolutely.
I think that this is a time when unemployment rates are like this, that people are unable to really translate that in their day-to-day work, meaning they're going to still go to work on Monday, and they're not going to look at that number, and they're not going to say, even though I'm unhappy with where I am, or I don't believe that I can move in a different direction, or that I could change my career or ask for that promotion or move to a different corporation, this number is not, I don't think they are confident maybe, I don't know what the reason may be, to utilize it to their advantage and say, oh, this is the time that I can make different choices.
Absolutely.
I am capable of moving at this time. This gives me courage. This gives me information. This gives me data and support to say, oh, I can do this now because it's a good landscape to do it.
No, it's perfect. So when I was in a job labor market, when it was low unemployment times like this, this was my mindset. How do I double my income?
Right.
And because I have these skill sets, a lot of people don't have, the market is very good for an employee because there's not a lot of people going after a job. For example, if a job post, you may have 5 people go after a job, right? Instead of having 25 people. So now your odds are better, right? And the other 4 people that go after that job may not be as qualified. So now you can leverage.
Yes.
You can get multiple job offers and then negotiate against each other. So my mindset was always, this is the time that I'm going to go get my money, right? And I'm going to get, that experience that I needed. So
I think you're
this
talking
is
about the
time.
next topic, and
Yes.
that is wages and raises. So the
Absolutely.
wage growth is expected to slow down. So returning to pre-pandemic norms. During the Great Resignation, as they call it, employers offered significant pay raises to retain workers, but wage growth is expected to decrease with reduced competition for talent. But that's not how we interpret that statement.
No. So this is how we interpret it.
Yeah.
Back in January 2023, 9% rate wage increases was happening because it was the great pandemic. A lot of people were resigning, and people needed workers to do the job. So raises, people were getting 10% raises, right? And wages went up 10%,
Yes.
right? And so what does that mean for the regular person? That if you didn't get in the last 2 years at least a 15% raise, then you are behind the curve, right? I mean, you didn't take advantage of the opportunity, and now is the time to take advantage of the opportunity because they still expect a low 4% wage growth.
Right.
That means that it's still going to be a very competitive job market. When the average person is getting 4.2%, you should be thinking, I'm getting 5 times that.
Yes.
I need to go for 20%.
Yeah.
So if I'm making 80,000 now, I need to be going for a job making 95 to 100,000. This is the market to do it right now. Go and get your money.
Yes.
Don't leave it on the table because what you can do with that money, you can invest in other things when you get a raise.
Yes.
You can go on a vacation if you choose, if you're going to get a raise. You can invest in more in your retirement so that you don't have to work until you're 80 years old.
Absolutely.
There's so much you can do.
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at these high-level indicators, these economic statistics and things, it's great. I don't think it necessarily translate for people on an individual level. I mean, really, it is up to you individually to what you want to decide what to do. This helps you to make the decisions, but don't think that it limits you in saying, okay, these are the increases that are happening across the board. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't sit down and negotiate and command the salaries and the job benefits and the career moves that you want to command. This is the time for you to strike when the iron is hot.
Strike. That's the right word. Strike, strike, strike. And so when we talk about and we bring on our special guests in about 10 minutes, they're going to talk about, how it works for them and how you can apply those tools later on. So this is the market to strike. Even if you don't go to another job, within your own organization, your own company, this is the time to get that raise and that promotion. I had an individual that I was offering a job to maybe about 8 months ago. I was offering a job which was $30,000 more than the person was making, right? And the organization didn't want to lose that person so bad that they beat my offer and gave that person another $15,000 on top. So he got to stay in an organization that he was comfortable in,
Right.
that really wanted to him and they liked the culture, and do the same job but made $45,000 more.
That's amazing.
Just because
You
he
gave
took
him an
a
offer.
chance that I gave an offer and they matched it and exceeded it.
Right.
And so ended up not coming to me, staying at the organization.
That's okay.
But that's how the market is right now, Dr. C. There's opportunities to go. Your employer if you are doing a good job, your employer do not want to see you leave
Well, good
now.
employers, good leaders.
Yeah.
I would speak to that as that's someone that knows the value of their staff and they know that the team dynamic is very hard to nurture, and to create a whole new nurturing team or team to nurture it's a huge investment. So in essence, that person's boss knew that it would cost more to get a new person to transition to.
Yeah,
So
it's going to cost more in training. It's going to cost
Onboarding.
more in onboarding, recruitment, and then you don't know who you're going to get.
That's at least a year setback.
Yeah, they always say you want to have the devil you know than the devil you don't know.
Yeah,
Right?
I like that statement.
And so you definitely want to explore how you can take advantage of you don't need to go to another organization.
No.
How can you take advantage of the things that are happening now? Now the next thing that's happening in this article, and I'm going to scroll down, and we talk about a hiring slowdown.
Yep.
Right? So what is anticipated, Dr. C?
Well, they in this article, of course, it says while hiring cooled in the later half of 2023, some employers still have plans to increase permanent roles in 2024. That's good information.
Yeah.
So if that is accurate and that we can rely on that, that means that, again, there's more job opportunities out there, and there's more job opportunities for permanent roles, not just temporary job market.
But in mid years, it's talking about also how job growth potentially is forecast to flatten. And so what does that mean for us and for you? That means the time right now is to strike. because we don't know at the end of this year or going into next year if job growth is going to still be there. So if it's not, the time is now. It's just like at the height of a real estate market, and your property is worth a lot of money, but you know in the future that the value may go down, right?
So
Because
you're
the
really
market's softening.
highlighting the fact that it's January.
It's January 2024.
And you are getting a couple of months warning about the status of what the economy is going to do, the job market is going to do.
Potentially.
So right now,
right now. January 2024 is when
this is it.
So I don't post jobs in November and December if I'm an employer, most employers, unless it's a desperate need, because a lot of people are not looking for jobs during the holidays because they're worrying about holidays, family, New Year. But after the New Year, you're going to see a ton of job postings.
Yes.
You're going to see a ton of opportunities, and this is the time to hit because we don't know at the end of the year if these opportunities will exist.
So planning right now is important.
Yep.
Market research is important. Looking at companies' forecasting numbers. Getting your resume together.
Yep.
Absolutely. Building up and increasing your network. And
Getting a certification if you need to. All those things so
these
that
are
make you competitive.
these are the perfect times to start, revving up that engine
Yep.
to get ready.
Yep. So get ready, and we'll drop some videos very soon on things that you can do to get ready in the job market. So look out for that. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, Two Doc Minds, so that you can get this content, but more importantly, our strategies on how to take advantage of this that's going to be coming. We want you to hit that notification button, because that notification button, you're going to be the first person to get the content when it drops, and it's going to be hot.
Yes, and it's timely. I mean, when you get the notifications are important to let you know that, oh man, the content is coming out, and this is going to help me to make my moves in the new year and in future years as well.
Fourthly on this article,
Layoffs.
they talk about layoffs. So you have heard over the last year tech companies laying off people and certain layoffs. When you look at the grand scheme of things, right, you see layoffs and you say what's going on. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, there hasn't been any huge cut in jobs in general that is not there during a normal period. And so during a normal period, you will see layoffs. You just don't see it on the news, right? But now that they thought the economy was going bad, every time they throw a layoff, they put it all on the news, and they try to make it look bigger than what it was. But it wasn't. It's your normal attrition in jobs. So you lose jobs, and then you gain jobs. I don't need more of this type of job, but I need more of this type of job. And that's normal. So you see layoffs, or you see reduction in jobs, and then you also see job growth. And you see addition of jobs. That's your normal cycle, right?
Right.
And so that cycle, you're seeing more job growth than layoffs
That's good.
or eliminations. That means there's more jobs in the market.
Yep.
More opportunities for you.
So yeah, they say layoffs are expected to remain low in 2024.
That means opportunity. 24 is your new year.
Yes.
I just
It's
need
a good
for you to
year.
know, it is your year to shine, to reach your goals, reach your potential, and make it happen for you. This is your year.
And last but not least, labor hoarding. Employees facing challenges finding talent tend to retain existing employees.
Yes.
So, and again, it speaks to the point that employers are looking for great talent.
Absolutely.
And it's time for you to showcase that talent as someone looking to increase their opportunities in the workforce.
So let me just tell you this. If you want to know if you're doing a good job at your employer, are you valuable at your employer, you can do two things. And I wouldn't say you do this, but you test the job market and wait until someone gives you an offer or two or
Quietly.
three. Right? Quietly. Don't tell anybody. When you get that offer, you go back to your employer and you see if they'll fight for you. Or they say good riddance, bye. Then you would know if you're valuable or not to that employer. In more than cases, if you're valuable, they're going to match that offer.
Right.
They're going to exceed that offer. And potentially they're going to give you more responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what you're seeing. That's what they're saying, job hoarding. They're making sure they give their employees compensation packages and very flexible scheduling so that they don't want to leave. Right? They're trying to make the environment nice so that they don't want to leave. And so they want to hoard that talent, right? And they want to keep it because they know it's hard to get more
Yeah,
talent.
absolutely. I think a good executive leaders can actually make those decisions and make those moves and in their organizations to ensure that they are managing their great talent in a way that
Absolutely.
they stay engaged in their jobs. I think good people who know how to lead good organizations know this.
Absolutely. So we are excited about that. So we got, and sorry we got to the chat late, but we got someone saying, any advice for people with no work experience? What do you say?
That's a good question. I really stand on that any experience is good experience. I think that some of us miss the opportunity to describe whether we actually have the experience, whether paid or not paid. And I think experience is if you go out and you volunteer at churches, or you participated in a youth program and you managed kids, or you, any type of work that you provided, you can actually articulate on your resume. So don't disregard things that you've done, even if you got paid or you did not get paid. Make sure that you show that you did a research project, that you did work at your school, and that they let you be a part of this workforce program on some level. What kind of advice can I offer somebody with no work experience? Go get the work experience. I mean, work experience can happen for anybody at any level. And I think as people are trying to build their staff, they're looking for people that can handle the lower level tasks. They're looking for people to sweep. They're looking for people to wipe windows. They're looking for people to maybe sort mail. So don't ignore the simple tasks that people need done. Good organizations will allow people opportunities, such as young folk, to hand out flyers, to work community events or public organization events, government events, and just different ways. I think you have to be innovative.
So yeah, I mean, you don't have to have a job experience that you're getting paid for. Like you say, you can do a lot of volunteer work, as Dr. C says, but there's also a lot of jobs that you can get part-time. To your point, there's a lot of resources to do, anything, and it depends on your age.
I think when you have no experience, it's also important to humble yourself, because you're not too big or too small to do any job.
Correct.
So
Right.
be open.
Yeah, I started off, my first job was a rec aide at a rec center, and I provided lunch to the kids and make sure they were organized. And so there's a lot, delivering pizzas, right? So you start somewhere, and there's always opportunities. People are hiring
Everything.
right
There's
now.
so many things to do, especially if you
at
start
Chipotle,
starting out.
right? So you can't be so good.
Well, again, I said sometimes
Yeah.
the jobs that you do are unpaid.
Yeah.
Some of the great experiences that you can do, like volunteering at your local garden, your community garden, you can help them build their social network
Yeah.
platform. It depends also what industry you're trying to break into as well.
Absolutely. So we're going to transition. And so what we wanted to tell you in this segment was simply this. The time is now to strike.
Yes.
The time is now for you to take your career, your journey off. Whether you're beginning, go find that first entry-level job.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the place where they're hiring a lot of folks. Go to Amazon,
Yeah.
right? They're hiring UPS. I did UPS and, put boxes on the back of the truck. That got me enough job experience that I can use for a reference to get to that next level.
Yep.
So it's not where you start, it's where you finish.
Yes, I like
And
that.
it's a journey, and everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different, but don't be afraid just to get out on that journey. Apply. You have a lot of experience. If you were babysitting your sister, right, that's something you can put on your resume. You was on a church choir, and you volunteered to clean up the church pews.
That's
Put
something.
that on your resume.
That's definitely something.
Everything. Think
If
about
you,
what you
if
do.
you what's it called, mowed lawns?
Mows line and put it up
To your
there.
neighbors.
Every
Put it-
Saturday I was, raking leaves,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so you put that there, to show, number one, that you have skill sets and you can do something,
Yep.
and that you're trainable, that you're dependable, and if you can show those things, people will take a chance on you.
Absolutely.
So we're going to bring
Dun, 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 dun.
our special guests to the channel. And so we're excited about our special guest. We know her well as Audrey V. Jones Taylor. She had, and I won't go through her whole bio. We're going to save some of that for the interview. But she has an extreme amount of experience, starting at the bottom, if you will, and making it to the top of the organization.
Yes.
She has changed many lives, thousands of lives, being able to provide them fun, recreational activities so that they can change. Providing, I would say, 10,000s of people jobs every year,
Yes.
and throughout her career. Humble and still doing the work today. And I want to bring to the table, and when I say I had my first job as a rec aide,
Yes.
Audrey was the one that actually gave it to me.
Amazing. Amazing.
I was lazy as all heck, but they took a chance, right?
Took a chance on you.
And that was the thing that helped move my career,
Yeah.
right? Learning and doing recreational
Something that you could
activities.
put on your resume.
Absolutely. So without further ado, we want to bring Audrey V. Jones Taylor to Two Doc Minds to tell that experience.
Welcome, welcome,
Welcome
welcome.
and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
No, thank you for joining in and really blessing us with your knowledge. So before we get started really into the interview, we want to start out with some background. So we want people to get to know who you are.
Yes.
So give us a little bit of background about who you are, where you grew up, how was it growing up? Was there a lot of opportunities? Was there a lot of mentors in your life? How did you just begin to start thinking about what you're going to do? And what was that footing, that foundation that you had to really get you going?
Well, good morning, and thank you again for having me this morning. So
Good morning.
I started in the career of parks, recreation, conservation, because there was an opportunity, in my opinion, to really make a difference. And I got that from two people when I was growing up in the city of Redlands. Miss Irma Brown, who volunteered her time and took us kids all over the place, had drill teams, had us actively, involved. And then there was Miss Carey, who had the House of Neighborly Service. And every summer, that's where all the kids in Redlands, California went and participated. We learned how to swim. We did arts and crafts. So, as a young child, I realized this is something that I want to do. So when I was in junior high, I decided I wanted to go into the field of parks and recreation. And at that particular point in time, it wasn't about the money. It was about making a difference and helping kids to stay off the street and to be involved and to be whoever they wanted to be. And so I started my career in Redlands, California.
Okay.
Miss Irma Brown was the one who told Jerry to hire me, to help with the youth sports. And so, and I was in high school, so I did that, and I was making 75 cents. 75 cents.
Woo. You can't get a bag of chips.
Wow.
You can't get a bag of chips for that nowadays.
No, not now. And I was excited, and a lot of my friends, they thought it was crazy to really want to work. And then after I graduated from high school, I went and started working for the city of San Bernardino as a rec aide, making $1.10.
$1.10.
Wow.
Like I'm moving up.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. And so I said, And so when I was a rec aide, I kept saying, well, if I get to rec leader, I can make $2.45, And so I did look at, the different ranges and the different salaries and also the different responsibilities. And one thing that I knew always, that I wanted to be a director. of a Parks and Recreation department. And I had that drive because I felt if I was ever at the top, I would really be able to make massive changes. So my goal was to become a director of a department, not knowing I was going to be a director of a huge department, in a large metropolitan city, but that directorship was my drive. And so every opportunity as I was going through this process of climbing the ladder, when they said we need a volunteer, there was no extra money, it was just volunteer. And the reason why I volunteered for all of these different options and opportunities was so that I can get more under my belt, so that I can make myself more marketable, if you will. And in doing that, I went from being a center manager to a senior supervisor when that opportunity came. And so many people were telling me, you're a center manager one. There's no way that you're going to be able to jump 5 positions to get to that job. And one of the things that I certainly believe in is my faith. And I figured as much that I have volunteered and I have proven myself, and I worked in a hard to serve vulnerable community. And that is my passion, to work in hard to serve communities so that there's an opportunity for me to make a difference, to empower, to encourage, and to show people that life is not always the way that you have been raised and all that you have seen. And so when I went up for the job, as for the senior recreation supervisor, I came into a lot of obstacles. First of all, they trying to tell me not to apply for it. Second of all, I was colleagues with many of these individuals that I was going to be supervising. But I stayed focused and I went on, and I was hired for the senior supervisor position, which is how I was able to hire Jason as the rec aide.
Absolutely.
When he came to San Bernardino.
Yep.
And it was a hard challenge because, again, the people that I now was going to supervise were my colleagues.
Ooh.
But one of the good things for me was I was always steadfast and immovable. I would tell them, this is what we need to be doing, and this is why we need to do it. This is why we need to come together and work together with all the center managers. So they knew kind of sort of what the expectations were, but it was rough. I would have my meetings, and if I stepped out for anything, they would erase, because I actually had to tape record our meetings because they would act like they didn't remember. But if I stepped out that room, when I came back to listen to, it was gone. Yeah. So there was a lot of game playing. And, there was also that stereotype that, females were supposed to stay home. Oh, wow. So the males had a problem with me being there, their supervisor. But, one of the things that I realized, because again, I knew where I wanted to go. I realized that, it takes two to make the intended changes that are needed in the work that we do. And so building that relationship with each and every one of them was important. Building that trust is critical, because they have to really trust that you have their back, so that they have your back. I've always said that, the first line staff, the rec aides, the foot soldiers is what I call them, from the foot soldiers, on up, those are my first line of customers. Because if I take care of them and give them the tools and the skills that they need, then they're going to take care of the communities in which we are charged to serve.
Absolutely.
So I did that for 22 years. Then I went to mobile. You have to be, and I learned this from my mentors. Jason, you asked me about mentors. I had a lot of mentors. And I started with mentors afar when I was younger. And what I learned also was, sometimes you could admire your mentors and pull different pieces from them. I had the opportunity to work for all of my mentors that were afar, from Willie Brown, Jerry Brown, Mervyn Dimley, Maxine Waters, and I took a piece
Absolutely.
of each and every one of them as I watched them, and Ron Dellums, and I had the opportunity to work side by side with Ron Dellums and Jerry Brown and Willie Brown. But so they gave me that foundation. I was growing up of how to be a strong leader and how not to take no mess, right? And be able to speak your mind. And so I became mobile. The National Parks and Recreation and EMS, Ethnic Minority Association, was really strong in helping me to continue to grow. But one of the things that Alan Dobie used to say is you got to be mobile
Who's
when you're
Alan
ready
Dobie?
to take.
Let folks know who Alan Dobie is.
Alan Dobie was a good friend, and he was the director for Santa Ana for a number of years. And prior to going into Parks and Recreation, he was actually a police officer, in the LA Compton area. But he was really instrumental in making me realize that if you want to grow and you want to become the director, you can't wait for your director in San Bernardino to leave. You got to be mobile.
Absolutely.
So I said, okay. So, and at that particular point in time, I didn't even have my BA degree, because there was a period that everybody had degrees. They didn't have jobs. And I was like, why am I going to spend all this money to go to school when I'm already, doing well?
So that's a good point, Audrey. So you hit on something good. Number one, you said that you wanted to serve underserved communities, and then when you got into this field, you didn't have a degree. You just kind of you jumped in, and then you got your education first. But first, why did you want to serve underserved communities? Is it because of your experience in Redlands? What made you want to serve underserved communities?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good question. And I think, and it's not so much my experience in Redlands, and but it was just, and I guess it started there, because Miss Brown, she took us, and we weren't necessarily underserved, but because all our parents were, Redlands is a military community.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was in the Marines, my mom was a nurse, and that's what was surrounding us. But at the same time, there was the what do you call it? The train tracks that separated us, because we were on, the south side, and other folks was on the north side. So we didn't really, the only time we crossed the train tracks was when we went off to school. So in the eyes of the folks on the other side, we were underserved in their minds, and so I wanted to get rid of that stigma. And so when I went to San Bernardino, started working in San Bernardino, and they placed me at Johnson Hall, which is the project area. My mom was like, "Oh no, you're not working there. No." And she said, "It's dangerous. No, you tell them to put you someplace else." But I said, "No, Mom. I think I can help these people. I think I need to do this." And so, so one of the things that my mom told me when I started working there, that your job, your task, is to get them to understand that their house, regardless if it's a project or not, should be their castle. You have to get them to understand that life is better than the way they have been living.
Yeah.
And that's what I set out to do. And from there, it became my passion, because I saw, Dr. Mitchell, how much I could do to really make a difference. And the services and the programs that we put in at that little community center, starting with the Tiny Tot program, that empowered these these babies, my babies, when they left our Tiny Tot program, many of them skipped kindergarten, went straight to first. It was just giving them that, because they wanted to learn.
Wow.
Yeah.
But nobody ever gave them that opportunity. The young people that, and it was, the projects, everybody grew up. There was generations and generations. And I would do this workshop, Unite as One, and I would have actors and folks come in and speak to young people. Jason, you participated in the Unite as One. And we got people from all over the city of San Bernardino and started branching out throughout the the whole region. And it became 15 years. It was very successful, but we really, it was real talk,
Absolutely.
empowering and giving them that opportunity.
So you also mentioned, and then we're going to go into some of the leadership that you talked about. You also mentioned that you didn't get your degree until later on, and you started in recreation. Out of the high school, you start moving through the ranks, and then eventually you got your degree. One of the questions that we always get is, how do I do it without a degree? But you were doing it without a degree.
Yes.
So let us know. And greetings, we got someone in here from San Bernardino. So we were excited. So they know where that's in the map in Southern California. They know where the Johnson Center is. So thank you all for tuning in from San Bernardino. But tell us about that journey pre and post degree and how that, helped your career, or do you think that you could have went along with your career without the degree?
Absolutely not without the degree, and that's one of the reasons why, because as I realized as I started moving up that, they still were asking for that piece of paper, right? And I didn't ever want to be held back because I didn't have the piece of paper. But one of the things that I did along my career, even before I had the degree, was to attend conferences and seminars and self-study, so that I can stay up, with the trends and actually also know what was happening within the community, because the community in which I served, and I have to give it to my babies and, from Johnson Hall, because I'm from Redlands, and Redlands was totally different from the Ninth Street, projects. So they really gave me street smarts. And I always, give Yvonne and Patricia and Donna and what have you, Dimitri, them, credit for helping me to understand, what it's like to work in the underserved. I didn't know what weed was. I didn't know some of the stuff. And they were like, no, Audrey. So they were, showing me all these different things. And if you see this little baggie, this is what it is. So they gave me the street smarts. And then when I became the senior supervisor, then I had like 8 recreation centers. So I had to go to all of the different centers, and I realized, hey, I need to get my degree. So I was a returning student, and I graduated from the University of Redlands. And at that particular time, I had one child, but it was important for me to go back and get that degree. And then in 2012, 2013, I went back and got my master's degree, and one of my big regrets is that I didn't keep going to get my doctorate. And my daughter teases me because every time we're playing a game or something, they said, what did you miss out on? Or what do you think you still want to do? And then I said, I should have went back and got my doctorate with Dr. Mitchell's. And I said,
That would have been fun.
That's something that, it's still on my bucket list. Mm-hmm. But I think, the degrees are really important.
Audrey,
and what was your other question?
Yeah.
I can't hear Cynthia.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? No.
So, Cynthia, we can't hear, but I'm going to talk through Cynthia.
Yeah,
So
if you could share with her, ask her a little bit more about how she built her community of network supporters. How did she tap into her mentors, and how did she get the confidence to?
Did you hear that?
No.
So how did you tap into your network of supporters? How did you build your network? How did you tap into those mentors? Because we get a lot of folks on our channel that said, I don't know how to network, right? I don't know how to build that team, that community around me. I don't know how to ask for a mentor. So we get a lot of that. And then once you did that, how did that help you push you through the rest of your career?
So going to the California state conferences as well as the national conferences, and really just having to be, outspoken, introduce yourself. And for me, I just watched people, right? And how they carried themselves and what they were involved in. And then I just went up to them and said, this is really good. I need you to mentor me. And I have to say, haven't been the best mentor, in terms of those that have wanted me to mentor. I think I've been awesome mentor just in general. But when you give me the title, I don't necessarily carry through that well. But um, I'm building that relationship again and the trust and listening and taking heed, because, when you have a good mentor, you might not like everything that they're saying of what you need to do, but you have to take heed and find some truth into what they're asking and expecting you because it helps you. And so building that network and being a part of a larger organization other than just where you work
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
have mentors all over the nation, and that is really important. So anytime I need something, and that's personal stuff too,
Yeah.
they're there for you.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you know you were a senior supervisor, you got your degree, and you start looking elsewhere. I know one of the things that we discussed before you came onto the show is that in 2024, right now is the right time to hit to get those promotions and those opportunities because they're plentiful right now. So you got your degree, you had these mentors and support team. How did that then take off your career? Because it sounds like you were saying you start looking elsewhere outside of San Bernardino and Southern California to progress. So tell us about how your career took off from there, and then we'll talk to you about some more leadership questions.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's interesting. So the word, through your mentors and through your network, when you start looking, people start putting your name out there. And I went to one particular conference, California Parks and Recreation Conference, here in Sacramento, when it was in Sacramento, and I got 3 job offers at that one particular time.
So you went to a
Um,
conference and got 3 job offers?
because of the network. And
Oh,
so people had said, okay, Audrey, she might want to come to Oakland. She might want to come to San Francisco and Long Beach. So I was wooed through the conferences and I was like, ooh, I'm not ready to come to Northern California. I'm not ready to go. So I took the job in Long Beach because it was local. I'd still have where my family and what have you. And so I did take the job as the superintendent and in Long Beach. Although I did not stay in Long Beach long, I stayed there for only 6, 7 months. I felt so bad, but um, because money was not that big of an issue, because I certainly would have been able to make more in the city and county of San Francisco. But I wanted to stay with family, close by family, so I took the job in Long Beach. But when I got my first check, I was introduced to FICA and
Micah,
introduced.
you was introduced
And
to everybody in your pocket.
I said, Kelton, I can't do this. you know, I'm making less here than I was at back in San Bernardino. So I'm gonna go. I can go
Go
back
back.
home, but this is not gonna work.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, there's not a whole lot we can do. Just work. After your first year or so, they won't be taking that much money out. I said, oh, year, I can do it. So San Francisco. Had already told me if it doesn't work out within 6, 7 months, you got a job here. So Joe Robinson happened to call me. He said, "So how's it going?" I said, "FICA is killing me."
And who's
Yeah.
Joe
You know,
Robinson? Who's Joe?
Joe Robinson was the general manager for the Parks and Recreation Department for the city and county, for the Recreation and Park Department for the city and county of San
So you
Francisco.
that was part of your network, right?
That was one of the
And
networks.
so that network was critical in your career growth, creating those
Oh,
relationships.
absolutely, absolutely. So I told him about FICA. He said, "Okay," gave me an offer. Moved me up there, paid for the moving, put me up in the housing for a while. And so I stayed in the city and county of San Francisco. I went and I stayed there for about five years. Um, and then they were making some administrative changes and what have you. And so I decided that, I wanted to branch out, on my own and try simply recreating consulting.
Mm.
And that's when I went to and worked as an interim in East Palo Alto. Again, hard to serve communities, try to make a difference. And so I did that for about a year or two, and then the city of Oakland called called me, and so for Oakland it was back to full circle when they were recruiting me from the conference. It was for a manager's job, but I went there as became the director and stayed there about just shy of 12 years.
Yeah, so that sounds like, so think about this, right? So you, throughout that progression in your career, from the time that you started making 75 cents as a rec aide in San Bernardino, right, or the Inland Empire, San Bernardino area, till you became the director, say, what, 20 years passed?
Yeah,
And
more than that.
about 20, so
40 years past.
a lot of years passed, to get there. But you went from 75,000 to the top paid person in your organization in that time, and you progressed up year after year, because it sounds like from the beginning you had a desire, a plan, a vision, a dream to get there. When you were thinking about that career progression, did you always think about that dream and continue to push forward? What made you get there? And then two, for the people that don't have the dreams, right? Don't have the support system, what advice would you give them to be able to continue to dream and move forward?
Okay, so, like you all started the conversation in your podcast, life is a journey, right? And you have to set your path forward on where you want to go and where do you see yourself. And many times it's challenging. So you have to talk yourself through it.
Absolutely.
You have to, encourage yourself that you can do it, and you can't listen to the naysayers.
Yeah.
Know what you want and where you want to go and what your ultimate goal is. And I knew that very early. And a lot of, my friends would say, well, you can't make a lot of money, in parks and recreation. Why would you want to even do that? And at that particular point in time, it was true, but it wasn't about the money. It was about making a difference,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
know what you want, know where you want to go, and I always say, the money will follow. And I believe that also when I was working, the staff would say, well, we can't do this, we can't do that, we don't have the money. Do the job
Mm-hmm.
and do the best that we can, and the money will follow. And the money followed, and when I left, I was well over six, figures, in the city of Oakland. And one of the things for me, as I indicated earlier, it's not about taking care of me as much as it is about taking care of my staff,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they are paid, and paid well, making sure that they have the tools
Yep.
to get the job done, and encourage to go back to school,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to be able to articulate to others
Yeah.
what our purpose is.
Now, and now in you saying that and giving back to your staff, I know a lot of your staff has grown to become directors
Their
themselves,
own leaders.
go out in other areas and grow. Talk about, how, investing in your staff and then watching them grow, right? Watching them, you watched me as well, but watching people, even pursue their dreams and reach those goals. How does that make you feel from a leadership standpoint?
It makes me feel really good. And I know my sister used to tell me, you're too hard. Everybody doesn't want what you want in terms of success. So lighten up. But if I see the
I
strength
don't know.
and the power and see the skill set that somebody has, I can't help myself but to encourage them to grow. So leaders and followers, have to build that relationship. And some folks, and Dr. Mitchell, some folks don't want to grow. But if I see that talent, I can't. It just it's in my DNA to really get them to that next level. So I feel really good for those that branched off and said, "I can do this. I want to do this," And I continue to encourage them to this day, send letters of recommendation for them and just continue to mentor them. I just got back from Baltimore, working in Baltimore for 2 years. But, when I got back, just I've been out continuing to mentor, continue to encourage, but understanding that in building of relationships, there's leaders and there's followers,
Absolutely.
right? And the followers have to be willing to take heed, to listen, and to grow right along, with you in order for real change to happen. And the real change is not just within um, the community; it's also within each other. And growth happens all the time if you are allowing it to happen.
No, that's perfect. And I'm gonna speak on behalf of Dr. C because her mic is acting up, and I know she wanted to ask this question, so I'm gonna ask this on behalf of her. Just in your career, and I know you have managed thousands of people, right? And so let us know, because it's not always easy to be at the top, right? You have to be faced with challenging times, staff making challenging decisions. Let us know one of the biggest challenges you face. Maybe give us an example, right? Some drama that you faced and how you overcame it and got through it. Because part of being in any career is that perseverance and being able to get through the good and the tough times.
Whew, the biggest challenge.
Or hurdle that you have, or some foolishness that you had to deal with, that you had to solve, because it was causing a lot of heartburn. Gives because our audience definitely as they're coming through their journey and they're moving up the ranks, what they can expect. Sometimes it's not always good being a leader. You have to, with the good comes the bad, right? And you have to deal with both of them, and just kind of talk to us about some of the things that you had to deal with.
Maybe give an example of what a big challenge you had.
Yeah.
So there were a couple, but I think I'll take the one in the city of Oakland when we had new administration coming in, and they wanted to do a full reorganization of the city, and so they were going to take my job and demote it to an assistant recreation director and bring in her own appointed director. And I had been with the city, I think, probably 9 years at that particular point in time. And it was hard,
Yeah.
and it was just like, first of all, you're not going to mess with my money. Second of all, I came as the director and I intend to leave as the director. And third of all, you need to look around to see what I have done and where the department has come from the time that I became the director. You need to have some conversation with the community because I don't think this is going to go over too well. So I would say that I was really bitter as they were going through this, and staff were hurting. And so one of the staff came and said, they have created a volatile workplace. You should sue them. You should sue them. And so I realized that, some of what I was feeling and going through was rubbing off on the staff.
Absolutely.
And what I had to remember is our mission was much bigger than that. So I had to tell the staff, I'm going to leave it at the feet of my Lord. And we're going to keep on going because we have a bigger job to do. This stuff will fade away. And if it doesn't fade away, I will, but at the same time, I realized that I had to pull it together for my staff and for the community so that we can continue to provide the awesome services that we were providing. But it was hard. And then in the end, it didn't, the whole reorg did not happen, and then that person wound up being fired. But, and so we had a whole new administration. But that was probably one of the roughest things that I went through because there was, my old pastor used to say, you can't make sense out of nonsense. And so it was nonsense. And there was no real purpose behind it.
Yeah.
It was just something, it was her vision that she thought she can come in and do. It's like when you go into a new city in a new position, you have to observe and get a handle on what's happening, understand the community, understand the workers, build those relationships. You can't come in with just your vision. That's what I was talking about earlier. The leader and the follower, there have to be a mutual understanding of where you're going. And one of the things that I've always done is bring everybody to the table. Staff in Oakland used to hate having all the meetings, but it was because we're part of this together. And for me, it's always about the leader knowing when to lead and when to step back, and be the supporting actor. You don't have to be the face all the time. I prefer not to be the face. I prefer to put my staff, and Dr. Mitchell, this, out there, and let them be seen, especially for those that want to grow. You can't be hogging up the show because it's not your show to hog. You got to be able to share so that you're empowering everyone. And people say, well, they're going to take your job. People can't take your job unless you stop doing your job.
Absolutely.
But if, in fact, you are true to your purpose and you have that relationship with your staff, you have that trust with your staff, a lot of change is going to happen.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And that's what exactly, we talk about in some of our videos is about building that trust with your team. They'll get you far as well. It's not just about you. It's having that team that trusts and believe in you. And it sounds like in that journey you had a lot of people believing in what you were doing and how you were doing it. And I know that time was, rough, right? And so when you look at, the leaders that was making those decisions, right? And you look at how they were making the decisions from a leadership standpoint, meaning you're saying that there wasn't a lot of communication, a lot of thought around it. You being in your leadership role, looking at this now outside in, what would you have done differently if you were that leader coming in and thinking about these things? What would you have done to yourself at that time?
If I was the leader that was
Yes.
making the change,
Yes, the person that
I
got
would.
fired.
Okay, certainly bringing all of the impacted organizations together and have the conversation about what would that look like
Yeah.
and why we were doing this. Are we doing this for money purposes? Because we need to make some major cuts. So collectively coming together to decide the best path forward without having the impact of those that have committed and dedicated their time, their energy, to the city and to the organization in general. So again, building that relationship, is really important, and so that's what I would have done, and that's what I've always done. Is you've got to bring everybody together and have that conversation so that you collectively come up with the path forward.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. And for our audience, make sure you drop a like, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But also, we're going to get to the point where we're going to take Q&A from you, that's viewers that are watching. So if you want to ask Audrey a question, please put it in the chat so that we can get to your questions in a second. So drop your questions, and we're going to answer your questions live here on our podcast. So we're excited. You ready for that, Audrey?
I will be.
But before we get to that, we want to ask you, and this is a question that we ask everyone. Do you believe leaders are born or are developed?
I think both. Some folks come with the skill set to be able to lead, but they mess up because they want to dictate. They don't understand what leadership is. Yep. But I also believe that leaders can be developed. If that is something that you really want to do, I don't think I was born as a leader, but that was my drive. And my drive was to make a difference. So I think that, some leaders are born. They just are able to speak well, articulate, and are like a magnet and pull people to them. But they also have the charisma and the character and know their place on how to carry that leadership through. Then others we got to work through it. We got to go back to school. Like I went back to school for my master's on, the art of leadership, and it's a constant learning process, constant, developing,
Yeah,
because it's a lot. Being a leader is no joke.
uh,
It's no joke.
absolutely. So we let our family, ask questions. We do have a question in our chat from Zinjin. That question is, what is a leader to you? What does a leader mean to you? What is a leader to you?
What is a leader to me? A leader is having effective influence over individuals that can make a difference in, whether it's the organization, whether it's the community in which you serve. A leader is one that poses and has the vision, right, to be able to see a path forward and knows how. And the path forward can be their staff, the path forward could be the overall organization, but really knowing, and I think I said this earlier, knowing when to lead and knowing when to step back, knowing your place, so to speak, right, and not being fearful of someone taking your place. It's having confidence in what you're doing and what you believe in and doing the right thing, and as well as um, being an effective communicator and telling the story of where you want to go.
That's
Absolutely.
good.
So our viewers come from all walks of life, all different places in their career. Some are still, at the beginning of their journey, as you can see in some of the comments. Some are, progressing through their journey. Some are lost and trying to figure out what the next step in their journey is. As we close out this interview, what message would you give our audience on how to reach their potential, how to celebrate and be able to get to their goals? What would you leave? What would be that lasting message that you leave to our viewers?
Okay, so there's 4 or 5 little different elements I think it's important understanding about leadership, and I've talked about them to a certain extent, and that is building that relationship, having that influence and the trust, right? And within that relationship that you're building, look for what it is that you intend to do with that. Are you looking for change, or are you just looking to be able to say that I am, the leader of this organization? Bring in the leaders and the followers must work collectively together for the mutual purpose. So trust, relationship, change, and mutual purpose and understanding of where you're going and what you want to do. And be true. Be true to you and those that have hired you to do the job. Your mindset should always be that you're there to make your bosses look good, and in turn you're going to look good, and really empower your staff.
Absolutely.
Empowerment is important.
Absolutely. Well, Audrey, I want to first thank you for being our first guest on our second podcast,
Yes.
right?
Second.
And being our first guest and taking the time. I know it's 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning on the Pacific Standard Time. So we are thankful of all the information that you gave us. We're thankful that what you're sharing with our guests.
And she needs to come back.
But more importantly, we want you to come back later on so that you can tell us where you're going on. And two, we always bring guests on just to help us answer Q&A from our audience. And the wealth of experience that you have, it really will help our audience grow and ourselves grow. So we thank you so much for joining in with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, and have a great day.
Bye bye.
So that was our interview with Audrey V. Jones Taylor.
Amazing.
And it was amazing, Dr. C. What do you think?
I hope my mic is working now. I wish I could bottle her up and carry her wherever I go, because every time I see people of her stature and of her experience and of her just her acumen of business and her passion for the recreational activities for our communities, it's just so much.
Yeah.
That's why I need her to come back, because I have a ton of questions, and she is the epitome of leadership. And I think she's influenced us both in many different levels over the years. But
Absolutely.
specifically, I think she highlights what leaders should be in their organization and how you can connect every aspect of your leadership. From your personal lives into your professional, and that you don't have to sacrifice who you are to accomplish your goals.
Yeah, being authentic, and that's what you heard today. Audrey's just talking about being her authentic self.
Yep.
Her reaching back and helping, her community, our communities that
Absolutely.
hasn't been served. Her being able to, inspire other folks to reach their greatness. I know many of the people that have worked for her are now directors and even beyond that in spaces. But more importantly, just like me, being able to give tens of thousands of people
Yeah.
opportunity for jobs.
Yes.
So, for the folks out there, right, that are looking at that and the folks that are looking at opportunities, she started from the bottom.
Yeah, I think also just what you make just right now, just the essence of what you just said. I don't even know if you understand the power of what you just said, is that when we as leaders, or we as anybody that's taking on occupations in an organization, what you do impacts everyone, and that you don't know what that's going to look 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
You can really positively influence people's careers and lives and just overall outlook of being in this planet in so many different ways, just by your leadership, just by who you are and how you carry yourself and how you're able to, as Audrey mentioned, to follow and lead and know when to do those things and switch up when necessary.
Yeah, so kudos to Audrey. We're going to conclude this podcast, but what we're going to leave you with is this. Now, as you heard from Audrey, she took those opportunities that were present.
Yes.
She had a team of people, mentors, a network that helped her move through and get opportunities.
Yes.
What we leave you is right now is that time.
Yes.
Use your network, use your family,
And
use
intuition.
your friends, use your colleagues. She was willing to leave from San Bernardino to Long Beach, I think I heard, to
Yes.
San Francisco, to East
Oakland.
Palo Alto, to Oakland, and she mentioned Baltimore. So she's been all
All
over
over.
the globe, right?
Yeah.
All over the country, coast to coast,
Right.
looking for opportunities.
Yes.
Know that right now is your opportunity in 2024.
Yeah.
Dr. C and I just gave you some information
Inspiration.
and inspiration that those opportunities are abundant. Take those opportunities.
2024 is it.
I want you to say 2024 is your year.
It's your year.
So hit them likes up if 2024 is your year.
Yes.
Make it happen. So next week we're going to have another special guest.
And if you have an inspiring story of how you are looking to change your life, or you have changed your career outlook, and you want to share it with us, we want to share your story with our audience and our community. And please just give us a shout out somewhere in our social media somewhere, and let us know who you are so we can
Hit us up in the DM.
Yeah, well, kind of, but let's let us know what's going on.
Yeah, you
and-
got our email on our YouTube channel. Hit us up in our DM on our social media, Two Doc Minds,
Yes.
TikTok,
Yes.
Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. Hit us up.
All
We-
our information should be in the description below.
We would love to showcase you and have you on our show
Yes.
so that you can share your experience with our family. And again, thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. J.
I am Dr. C.
And thank you for watching our podcast, Two Doc Minds.
Have a great Saturday.
Holla.